The process of designing a logo can be broken down into 5 steps, starting with the design brief, or rather, understanding the design brief. Some clients would do you the courtesy of sending over a design brief, which is a document that contains all the necessary details about their requirements. However, it is best to ask your client any questions that you need to, if it is not mentioned in their brief already. If you don't receive a design brief from your client, you can instead start by asking a set of questions to your client and using your client's answers to construct a design brief by yourself. This will help you get a clear picture of what you are trying to accomplish in your logo design. The next step is mind mapping. It is a process of visualizing what you are trying to accomplish in your logo design based on the design brief. Everyone has their own approach to mind mapping, and what I usually do is that I dissect the name and essence of the company I am designing the logo for. The essence basically being what the company represents or what vibe the company is trying to give off. I start with the name by separating the words and finding out what other words can be associated to the words that I have just separated. Sometimes I find overlapping mutual associations, and sometimes I end up finding distant but relevant associations. I then select those words that best represent the essence of the company out of the different associations that I have derived. The final filtered out keywords help me search the most relevant search queries. Search queries that I use to look for design inspiration on platforms like Pinterest, Behance, and Dribbble. And I can always come back to my mind map and expand upon it to find more keywords as necessary. The next step is sketching, which is my favorite step of the entire logo design process. Take your time with this particular step of the design process because this is the step where you are able to let your imagination run loose on paper. There is a very common misconception that in order to be a good graphic designer, you need to be good at drawing or sketching, which is not completely true. Yes, being good at sketching or drawing is definitely gonna give you an advantage. However, it is not a mandatory skill. In fact, it is a skill that you're eventually gonna pick up and be very good at as you spend more time designing and subsequently spend more time on the sketching phase. I use this step to explore every single design idea that I have in my head by sketching them on paper. Oftentimes, different elements from different sketches will catch my attention, and I'll find that combining these different elements together give me new design ideas, and soon enough, I end up finding the design concept that works the best. I usually like to make a larger version of the sketch for the next step, which is vectorizing. Vectorizing is basically the process of using your sketch as a reference to make a digital version of it. We start this process by scanning our sketch or taking a picture of it and dropping the sketch on Illustrator. Now, I will walk you through the vectorizing process of this logo. Okay, so I have reduced the opacity of my sketch to 50% so that we can trace over it. I have placed the sketch in a separate layer and have locked that layer so that we can vectorize on top of it without any interruptions. Now, I will be using the pen tool to trace the horse that I have drawn on my sketch. After drawing a rough outline, I will use the direct selection tool to fine-tune the horse's shape. After that, let's use the pen tool again to trace the S shape just below the horse's head. After roughly tracing the S shape with straight lines, we will use the direct selection tool again to curve the bottom of the S shape to our preference. Once we are happy with how it looks, we can use the merge shape option to turn it into a single object. Finally, let's make the crest of our logo. I'll start by first drawing a square with the rectangle tool, and then drawing a triangle by making use of the polygon tool. Quick tip: you can use the up and down arrow keys to increase or decrease the number of sides that the polygon has while you're dragging the polygon tool. I will match the width of both the shapes and then using the shape builder tool, I will merge the shapes to form a crest. Now I will remove the fill and increase the outline to my desired width. And then from the top menu, I will open Object and then select the Expand option, which will turn the outline into a solid shape. After aligning the crest with the course shape, I will open Object, then Path, and then select Offset Path, set the offset to our desired length, and select OK. This creates an outline of the course shape. We then select the outline of the course shape and the crest and use the Shape Builder tool to make a nice little gap between the core and the crest to give some depth to our design. Finally, I will add in the name of the company along with the icon that we just vectorized, and I will be using a font that goes well with our icon design to finish up the logo. Finding the perfect font for your logo could honestly be its own separate step, and by extension its own separate video, so consider subscribing to my channel for when that happens. But for now, let's move on to the final step of the design process. And the final step is basically selecting colors that perfectly represent the company. Usually the client has a color that they want their brand to use. If that's the case, try to find complementary colors that work well with the main brand color. But if you are tasked with selecting the color for the logo, you can use websites like Adobe Color or Coolers to find colors that best capture the brand's essence. Always try to color your logo after you are done vectorizing it, so that you can design versions of the logo that works well in both light and dark backgrounds. Now these are just things that I personally like to do, which are an extension of my entire design process. First is making responsive variations. I try to make different versions of the logo, each for a different format. Sometimes just changing the placement of the icon and the typography works perfectly fine. Other times I have to find creative ways to make a responsive variation for a particular format. One more thing that I like to do is making a nice little presentation for my client. I include multiple mockups in my presentation in order to give my client an idea of how their logo will look on different items and products. And with that, my logo design process is now complete. Here is the final logo. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. And while you're at it, let me know what other topics you'd want me to cover in my videos next. Be sure to like and subscribe if you found this video helpful. Consider sharing this video with your friends who are also interested in learning graphic design. Thank you so much for watching this video till the very end. I'll see you guys on the next video. Till then, take care.